Now welcome to another lightning response video where I'm going to try to do a few questions this time, and we'll kick it off with this one from Dan R, who asked, "Hey Thor, you recently talked about potential issues with the upcoming Rey movie/trilogy, specifically your concerns with a new villain that isn't just a rehash of the Empire or First Order. What would you think about Disney taking cues from the old EU, such as their version of the Vong or Abeloth? A true galaxy-wide threat unlike anything we've seen before." And first of all, as I've said before, that's really what they should have done with the sequels, a new kind of galaxy-wide threat that just wasn't the Empire and the Sith all over again, and very specifically Palpatine again. But yeah, that's exactly what they need to do, bringing in something new and different. And I'm not saying you never go back to the Sith. Certainly the idea of an all-Sith series, or a movie even, if you wanted to go that far, is interesting. It's kind of unfortunate the Acolyte ended up being what it was, that it seemed to be more focused on trying to tear down the Jedi than being a true series about the Sith. And sure, maybe Season 2 was going to be that, but you had to make sure Season 1 was good enough to get yourself a Season 2. But anyway, I think there's already a chance that Dave Filoni is bringing in Abeloth or something just like her, with the way Season 1 of Ahsoka ended, where we have Balin looking off in the distance and there seems to be a temple with a pulsating light or something, which could be her prison or something along those lines. And certainly we have the statue of the other Mortis gods pointing in that direction. So who the heck knows what it is, but clearly something to do with perhaps Abeloth or just the Mortis gods. So it seems like he is going to do something with that. Now, we've heard recently that perhaps Season 2 of Ahsoka will be the final season of that show, depending on how the ratings go, I'm assuming. They want to give it kind of a conclusion, just in case they don't get a third season, which is sad that they can't rely on Star Wars being a success. They can't guaranteeing it being good enough or getting enough viewers, because it's not good enough to get a third season. But setting that aside, I don't know that you would want to just wrap up and introduce Abeloth all in one season of Ahsoka. And if you leave it open-ended, does that mean it will be in the Filoni movie? I don't know, very curious what the heck they are going to do with that second season, if this rumor is true about wanting only one more season and you are potentially bringing in something as big as Abeloth, that again, you don't want just one season to introduce and wrap up. As for the Vong, we did get something like them in the new Thrawn trilogy, or trilogies. We got the Grisk, which are kind of the same-ish thing. Not exactly the same, but very similar. The Grisk come from this galaxy instead of a whole different galaxy, and, well, they're not exactly the same again. But they're along the same lines of a threat where you feel like they could truly just kind of take over the whole galaxy. Unfortunately, we haven't seen them anywhere but in the Thrawn trilogy, or kind of referenced or even hinted at. I thought maybe, possibly, small chance the Ahsoka series bringing in Thrawn would allude to them being the threat, or why Thrawn thinks the Empire needs to survive and kind of re-strengthen or rebuild, because, well, we got the Grisk out there and the New Republic can't handle it. But then again, Thrawn's been off the map for 10 years, if you will, so he wouldn't even know all that per se. But anyway, yeah, a big galaxy-wide threat that isn't just another Empire rising up or a Sith who wants to rule everything. I think that would be a great idea. I think that's exactly what they need to do. They need to do something a little fresh and different with Star Wars, not just do Empire versus Rebellion for like the third time in a row here. I honestly wish they would bring in Timothy Zahn to just help out and to use the Grisk, since they have already been well established in those Thrawn trilogies. To do something with them, I think that would be fantastic. Not only would you be able to write Thrawn a little better with Zahn at your side, if you will, but I think they're a good idea. I think it's just a good idea to do something different and have a true threat to the galaxy that, again, isn't the frickin' Empire all over again. Alright, and moving right along, we have a question here from Freeman Canada, who asked, "Hey Thor, with all due respect, I have to disagree with you about people hating the sequels any less than they did when they were released. I still buy Star Wars merch, but it's almost entirely related to the original 6 movies, and even some stuff from Rebels and Mandalorian. I especially hate Last Jedi, and there is no amount of Rey sequel stuff that will recover from Last Jedi and how Luke was disgraced. Not to mention Star Wars is a boys brand like Barbie is a girls brand. Having Rey do all the stuff we should have gotten Luke to do in any sequel related thing is just going to bury the franchise that much more. I'm not sure where you came up with this idea, but it doesn't sound like your normal take on Disney Star Wars. Would you please elaborate more and give us a take on what you mean by this?" Well, I didn't necessarily mean people hate the sequels less. What I was trying to say in that video is that the hate for them is not as prevalent, that people are not 5, 6, 7 years later, depending on what movie it is exactly. There's not a ton of people on social media or making videos on YouTube about how much they hate the sequels. People have kind of, in a lot of respects, let it go. If you really hated them, if you thought that was the death of Star Wars, you've probably more or less left the fandom. You're not still watching a ton of Star Wars YouTube videos. I think if you really hated those movies, there's really nothing that's ever going to be done with Rey or anything that is going to change that fact. Now, saying that, I don't think it's impossible, and I stress the words not impossible. I'm not saying this is likely or probable, but I do not think it is impossible to salvage the character of Rey for people who maybe didn't absolutely despise her or the sequels. I think there is a way that she could be made into a decent character and that decent movies could be made with her, and I don't think that ever changes the sequels for some people. I think people will still hate the movies, but they may appreciate the character or come to appreciate the character and what is done with her, and perhaps enjoy her post-sequel trilogy, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I'm not saying people hate the movies less or anything like that. I'm saying apathy is kicking in. People have just moved on and they don't care, and it's just not out there everywhere like it was 5, 6, 7 years ago when the sequels were going on, or right after they ended and everybody was just trashing them who didn't like them. Not that people suddenly are enjoying them more or anything quite like that. Alright, let's now move on to this question from Derek Lopez, who asked, "Hey Thor, I've been wanting to ask, which version of Clone Wars animated show do you think does a better job in terms of continuity of the movies? The original 2003 Clone Wars by Tartakovsky or the Clone Wars by Filoni?" And though, as I've said before, I am a big fan of the Dave Filoni Clone Wars, the Clone Wars animated show. I think it is some really fantastic Star Wars as the seasons go on. The later seasons are really good, the earlier seasons a little weaker. But when it comes to just purely aligning with, say, Revenge of the Sith or Attack of the Clones before it, I think the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series in some ways is a lot better. Now maybe the first season is a little over the top, though still cool and fun to watch, don't get me wrong. A lot of great stuff with Anakin in there too. But the second season and how it goes right into Revenge of the Sith, literally leads right into the film, even shows you why Grievous has his cough in the movie and shows how Palpatine is abducted, and it does all these things. It sets up the movie beautifully. I think that just does a better job. And I remember when that happened, because keep in mind, Clone Wars Season 2, the Tartakovsky Clone Wars Season 2, came out before Revenge of the Sith. So you could actually watch the setup for Revenge of the Sith a few months before the film came out, and that blew me away. I mean, at the time of watching the Clone Wars, I didn't know that it was leading directly into the movie, and I remember when it started, and I'm like, what the hell? This is literally picking up from that. That was so cool. I wish they would do more like that, because honestly, if you haven't seen the Clone Wars, it's not like you really missed anything. It's not like you're scratching your head and wondering how this all happened, even though it doesn't explain how it all happened. But it just picks up and goes like a lot of Star Wars movies do. But if you did see the Clone Wars, you understand what was going on, and that was just this cool little nod to the fans who watch and keep up with everything. So yeah, love the Clone Wars by Filoni. It is fantastic. But if I have to pick, it is Tartakovsky, and just how it led right into Revenge of the Sith is just better for continuity, I guess you could say. Alright, and now one final question, and it comes to us from the Big Green Dragon, who asked, "Hey Thor, what's your favorite Star Wars beast/creature, be it live action or animated? Me personally, I'm a huge fan of crate dragons, would love to hear your thoughts." And crate dragons are an excellent choice, no doubt, but my favorite has to be the Rancor, and probably because it comes from Return of the Jedi, my favoriteest movie of all time, and because I used to have the vintage Kenner Rancor. I got it for Christmas when I was 5 or 6, whatever it was. And I also, that same year, got the Ewok Village, the vintage Ewok Village, and the Rancor would constantly attack the Ewok Village and eat the Ewoks. And you had to be careful because you could lose the Ewoks down the Rancor's mouth because it had the little switch on the back where you could open and close the mouth. So yeah, my favorite is Rancor. There's many others I enjoy. For whatever reason, I've always been a fan of the Tauntaun as well. Don't know why, but I am. But Rancor is number one. Well, that's going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell me what you think of any or all of my answers, or give me your own answers to these questions, or ask a question for a future lightning response video. Just start your comment off with "Hey Thor" and then ask away. But whatever you choose to do, leave a comment below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.